For the first time in franchise history, the San Jose Sharks has a lead in the Western Conference Finals. Just think that to yourselves and remember back to last year and how much hope there was not in the franchise. I am joined by Ian Reed and his beautiful child, and Chris JWS checking in from a hotel somewhere in St. Louis. Welcome to Pucknology After Dark. If you want to be a part of the show, please use hashtag Pucknology After Dark. You can get to any of us at Eric Landy, at Chris JWS, and at iReadPucknology. You can also use the Pucknology account as well. That's at Pucknology to get your questions on the air. And we'd love to have any questions also posing from the chat. Please use the hashtag Pucknology After Dark in the chat as well so we can sort through and get these questions easily from the chat. I'm also joined by PuckGuy14 and Jay Alexander 46. Jay Alexander 46, I believe. I should know that. It's right there. Yeah, Jay Alexander 46.
47, something like that.
Anyhow, we have a live check-in from the tank. I'm going to throw it over to Mr. Puckguy himself. Puckguy.
All right. Again, it's getting loud in here. Last time I was here from Game 5 with the birthday boy, Gentry Alexander. 2-0 in the Western Conference. Woo! I got to go towels right here. I got the hookup. The place was
Hook it up, bro.
Hook it up.
Got you. One with your name on it right now.
We have, let's talk quickly about the atmosphere tonight. Bracelets make the world of difference, guys.
Oh,
I
God.
gotta say.
It was amazing. The setup that they had here was just, it made the entrance of them coming out of the shark head just that much more epic. It was like a Twilightian thing. It was amazing. And not in the stupid vampire movie way.
I was going to say that's not good. But this place was into it. It was a little quiet at first.
6 p.m. start.
Yeah, 6 p.m. start. It was a late arriving crowd. Definitely got loud into it once Hurdle scored the first goal of the game.
Boys, quick question. Do we have any more May birthdays in the house? Because I believe we are 2-0 for Pucknology birthdays.
My birthday is in March, unfortunately.
Yeah, mine's Boxing Day in Canada, so mine unfortunately got wiped out due to the CBA. So. But this place is absolutely on fire. I mean, we're probably about 10 minutes out of the game being over, and I can't wait to walk down Santa Clara Street tonight.
Oh my God, it's going to be amazing.
Oh my goodness, we definitely are going to give this guy definitely a good time tonight. But overall, Sharks played a flawless game, I think.
It was like, can you repeat the success that you had in Game 2? And not only that, they did that and then some. They didn't score as many goals, and we almost got to see a hat trick tonight. But hell, I'll take a 3-0 win and take a 2-1 series lead, because this is the first time we've had a series lead in the Western Conference Final. We have defended home ice, and right now I think the Blues look tired. They look out of it. So keep banging at them and just take a 3-1 series and then keep going. Why not?
Like Adrian would say, play your game. Literally, play your game. Because they play this game in front of another raucous crowd on Saturday afternoon. This could be something special. But questions, guys?
Give us the loudness of the tank itself. I mean, do you think has it been as loud as it has been before, or is it still a little hit or miss?
It was pretty loud. I would say it can be a little bit louder.
I know it can be a little louder, but here's the thing: is that the first couple minutes of the game, everybody was still kind of getting off the work and coming in, So it took a little bit, but once that goal got scored by Hurdle, the place just erupted and it didn't stop. And then we just kept scoring, and it did get louder in my opinion. I'm hardly able to hear right now.
Yeah, once that Hurdle goal went in, people started to think that, yeah, they got a chance to win this game and take a lead in the series this late in the playoffs, it definitely got loud. And hopefully I have a voice left, but if not, oh well. I have 2 days to recover. Back to you, Landy.
Well, thank you for the live check-in, guys. I'm going to put you on mute so we can listen to our so we can listen to ourselves think, because the tank was really rocking tonight. Gentlemen, I mean, the guys touched on it a little bit. They thought that the game was pretty flawless tonight. I think that the Sharks have played a better offensive game, and I think their defensive game was really up to snuff tonight, but I did not like the way that they started the first period tonight. I thought St. Louis dictated a little bit of the play in the very beginning of the first period. Kind of came back, and really the Sharks started gaining steam. Was a good second period, and then that third period, basically just shut down hockey. What do you guys think?
You want to start, Ian, or do you want me to? Well, since he's not talking, I will start. I agree with you. I think the first 10 minutes or so, the Blues did dictate a lot of the play, but at the same time, normally we say this when a team's on the road, but the Sharks had to weather the storm. I said before the game that you could tell by the lineup changes, the Blues knew that they were lucky to not be down 2-0. So the Blues knew they had to come out hard, because even at 1-1, the ice was tilted towards the Sharks, and they had to come out hard, they had to come out strong, even if it was on the road. They did, and props to them. I mean, they looked very good early. The Sharks weathered that storm, and if you look at the underlying numbers, the Sharks didn't actually get destroyed that badly in possession. It was tilted in the Blues' favor, but only by a bit. And then, second 10 minutes of the first period, the Sharks started turning it around, started gaining possession more. They got a goal, and then to end the first period, they had a flurry of, I think it was 6 straight shot attempts to the Blues 0. And they ended the period on a strong note. And second and third period, the Sharks came out strong, and they owned it. So it's weird to say when you're playing at home, but the Sharks weathered that initial burst from the Blues, who knew they needed a good game tonight, and they held strong and they played strong. And that's the thing we've seen from this team all year long, is they are a resilient team. They tend to do the bend but not break thing. So back to you, Landy, or Ian. Yeah.
Ian, you want to go ahead and jump on?
Yeah, I thought the game tonight, I mean, Chris hit it on the head. The Blues were going to come out and they were going to do stuff. I thought the Blues were going to come out as they did. The thing that impressed me about the game, though, because I really think this is a game where the numbers really didn't do it justice. If you looked at the shots on goal, if you looked at the shots on goal through most of the game, you would think that the entire game was played in the neutral zone, and it wasn't. There was a lot of good offensive chances. I thought the Sharks had obviously the better of the offensive chances, but Jones maybe wasn't as busy as he didn't look as busy, hard busy, but he was obviously, they had more shots on goal. But I thought with all the shots that went wide and stuff, it was a pretty good game, and it was fun to watch. I mean, that was for a low shooting, for the most part. I mean, I know obviously the Blues shots. I don't know what the final shots on goal were, but I feel like they got a couple of shots there in the 6-on-4. Yeah, I don't know.
I think the other thing that we also got to really point out here is that Martin Jones is on an incredible shutout streak. 150 straight minutes without letting in a goal. I believe the time is 150 with 33 seconds. But, when the Sharks, I mean, even when they're not putting pressure on, I mean, they still look like the better team. And that's the scary part, is that even though they weren't dictating play, they're still the better team. That just goes to show you just how much depth and how scary this team can be on when it's full speed ahead.
So final shots was 16 for the Sharks and 22 for the Blues. I predicted this actually before the game. I said I thought it was going to be a low events game, so meaning low shots, not as many getting through, because I thought the key for the Blues tonight was to chip the puck in a lot, play super physical, force the Sharks to skate 200 as often as possible. And early on, I think they did that. But I think, and I don't want to jump ahead of ourselves because, like I always say, like take it game by game and look at what's going on overall. A lot of things can still happen in the next couple games, but things look really good for the Sharks right now. They look like the better team. Like, not the Sharks fans to be saying this. The objective person who likes to look at the numbers, likes to look at everything that's happening. The Sharks look like the better team. And honestly, with the current trajectory, I think this might be over with Sharks in 6. Like I predicted Blues in 7 originally. So I might end up being wrong, and I will be incredibly happy if I am. But I think the Sharks have done a really good job against the Blues so far, and I'm impressed, honestly.
No, I think so too. It's kind of funny because the Blues I thought were very structurally similar to the Kings, and we saw what the Sharks game did against the Kings, and you figured, well, maybe they can do this to the Blues. Ian, it sounds like you got something to say, so I'm gonna throw it to you.
Yeah, I just on Martin Jones. I mean, it's to me it's amazing what he does because like I didn't like the goal that he let in game 1. I know I don't think I've been on since game 1. Game 1 I didn't really like that goal, but and a lot of people were like kind of on me on Twitter like, well, yeah, but Jones let in that soft goal, but yeah, he did. But then he basically held them in the rest of the game while the power play went 0 for 3. And you know what I mean? Like it's even when Jones lets in a bad goal, he quickly rebounds, and that's the thing that I like about him. And then to come back and play, 2 back-to-back shutouts after, obviously a weaker game 1. I think that's why the Sharks are doing so much better this time around because, Martin Jones, nothing phases this guy. If that's previous goaltenders, it'd be 1 bad goal and then it's quickly 2 or 3 bad goals. And I think that I think that when you look at what Jones has done, that's a huge part of the Sharks' success this year. And going to what Chris said about how the Blues came out hard in the first, and early in the first, the Blues owned the boards. The Sharks couldn't move anything up the boards at all, and it was good to see the Sharks push through that and just kind of play their game and stick with it. And I mean, you basically that's basically what it was. The Sharks, they got up by a goal and they stuck with it, and then it's 2-0, 3-0, and the Blues. I feel for Blues fans, man, because I don't know what I'm thinking if I'm a Blues fan right now.
Okay, a few thoughts. One quick funny one. Chester Chivo strikes again. I don't know if Chris JWS is watching his Twitter feed, but he apparently won the Game of Thrones. But back to the game, I think the other thing that was really interesting that I'm gonna lift from the Sirius XM guys because it was a really good. Actually, no, sorry, it was from Brett Hedican. He talked about how Ken Hitchcock deflected a lot of the blame away, or deflected a lot of the blame to the players, meaning that he's saying I have to make these changes because the players haven't been up to snuff. Like I have to be the one that does and moves these people around. That's going to make this a series. That's going to try and break this deadlock that they're in or this slump that they're in. And it was just very interesting because you see a lot of coaches normally deflect away from the players, but he's kind of made his players own this, and not in a good way. And I think the other thing that really comes to mind is that a lot of what St. Louis has done as far as line juggling, as far as players in and out, pulling Brian Elliott tonight, I mean, it just shows you that the Sharks' play is really in Hitch's head. I mean, he doesn't seem to have an answer, and it might be 2-1, but I think in his brain this series is getting out of hand very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right, and that's the best way of putting it. Like I said, like this series easily could have come home 2-0 for the Sharks. Like there was no doubt it was the better team in Game 2. The Sharks were arguably the better team overall in Game 1. I'd say that's a pretty good argument. Right now, I think Hitchcock realizes, and you saw before the game, the Sharks didn't really make any adjustments to their lineup. The Blues made a good number of mix and match a little bit there. So, and they played a better game tonight. They did, but you could see very clearly they understood the ice. In spite of the 1-1 series, the ice was tilted towards the Sharks, and I think the Blues have come out very good in pretty much all these games, except maybe game 2 didn't have a very good game, but really they've come out pretty strong. But the Sharks have had an answer every single time, and that's something we've never really seen from the Sharks, and that's why we're all we're very jaded. Like anytime something goes bad, like oh god, here we go again, oh no. But I mean, it's been a combination of Martin Jones and the players in front, because when it's not the players in front, it's Martin Jones making those big saves. And when Martin Jones, maybe he's not playing as well as he could, the players in front have lifted it up. Like Burns has been an animal, Hurdle beast tonight. So I mean, it's really looking good for the Sharks now. I mean, they're making history right now, and it's a good thing.
Just want to say thank you, Joe, for heading on to into the chat and braving the chat. I think he's a Blues fan, and he's been saying what? No, well, he says been watching. I can't remember a playoff series where our coach used the I didn't read that right.
Yeah.
Okay, no, he's talking about how much Peter DeBoer is using the bottom six, and that's actually a really, really good point. He has not deviated from his roll the lines mentality. I mean, it's almost like clockwork. I mean, I've been watching the game progress, and you can say, okay, it's Thornton's line, then it's Couture's line, then it's Tierney, then it's Wingles, or Wingles' line gets brought up and goes first. I mean, it's just continually rolling, and I don't think we've seen a Sharks team. Well, I mean, Donskoy is on Couture's line.
Well, yeah, I mean, just as like an X factor.
Yeah, Donskoy is the best.
Remind you. Joe, I'm sorry, I just had a brain fart. I've kind of got a couple of things going on.
Maybe or give a better summation for those on air who aren't actually reading the chat. It might be a little better.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I will when we get another one. Well, we've got another game on Saturday, and somebody was asking, is it time to start Jake Allen for the Blues? Do you think that they go to Jake Allen instead of Brian Elliott?
Nope. No. This isn't Brian Elliott's fault. They can't score. You can't put that on the goalie when, I mean, unless you're expecting Brian Elliott to go to the blue line because that's as far as he can go and shoot the puck. I don't know what more you can ask of him, really. I mean, yeah, a couple of those goals tonight were soft, but he's the reason they're where they are. You don't just go to Jake Allen now.
Yeah, completely agree with you. And like that'd be like saying after that soft goal Jones let in, hey, we should start Reimer now. Like we all knew, in spite of that soft goal, we all knew Jones was the reason we were even there. Like you ride that horse until you're sure that it can't get it done. Like if Jones let in several soft goals in a row, like okay, let's talk Reimer, but really, it's not been Elliott's fault. Elliott hasn't been the problem with the Blues. The problem they've had is the Sharks in front of goaltender and goaltender. The Sharks have been better, and I don't think there's any way around that. Looking 3 games in, they're definitely better for 2 games, and arguably better for that other game as well.
Yeah, well, let's quickly break down the goals. I guess we have the first goal being scored by Hurdle. It came on a rush. Hurdle takes a slap shot at around the face-off dot, maybe a little farther out than the face-off dot. He goes top corner. I mean, first off, it was a really good defensive play by Brent Burns, and then a good drop pass by Joe Pavelski to get it on Hurdle's stick. He had one guy in front of him, kind of used him as a screen. I mean, that's a tough one for anybody to make. I mean, that would have been a really spectacular save if he would have made that save. So I don't fault him for number 1.
For a goaltender, that's like a good goaltender, that's 50-50 at best. Like maybe you get lucky and your glove glances or something, but that's most average goaltenders don't make that save except for out of luck.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, like that was like in my opinion, that's like the perfect shot.
yeah.
Like it's as close to the perfect shot as you're gonna get, in my opinion. Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I think that going to the second shot, the second goal, Donskoy makes it's kind of a similar goal, but Donskoy gets the puck from Couture. Another great shot. Some people said it was soft. I didn't think it was soft at all. There was a lot of traffic, and he was able to get that into, into the net. I mean, I don't fault Elliott on that one at all either.
Yeah, it's traffic. Is a great shot, great pass before that. I mean, I wouldn't say it was like a impossible thing for a good goaltender, but it wasn't like, oh God, he should have had that. So yeah. Maybe we should cut for a conversation for a second here. But AJ joined us. He was also at the tank like Eric. AJ, you want to talk to us a little bit? What's the vibe like? What's going on outside the tank? Is it still rocking out there? What's going on, man?
Honestly, I can try to talk to you guys, but it is so loud out here. I'm probably not going to do a very good job. That's why I'm just trying to like show you guys a shot of the aftermath, everybody coming out of the tank. But it was just fantastic. You can't do any better than that. And I will say, as much as I loved Game 1, well, I should say Game 1 at the tank versus LA in the first round with the teal shirts, that was fantastic. But tonight with the LED bracelets, I have to say, like I've seen it with other teams. This playoffs, I've seen it with. I'm just doing a front shot. I've seen it with other teams for the playoffs, but seeing it in person is spectacular. And now, joining me, the man.
Hey, we know that guy.
I was gonna get on Puck Guy's broadcast, and then he gave me the wrong section. So now I've hijacked AJ's. All I want to say is this is lit. Literally, it's lit.
It's like Wonder Twin powers activate.
Anyway, have a good show, guys. Have a good night.
Yeah, and
and we're the first team to actually win with these things, by the way.
Right?
LA Philly. Oh.
Yeah, and hopefully you guys are still on when I get home, which will probably be about 30 minutes from now. But love you guys are doing a great job, and spoke with Randy Hahn about Randall Hahn tonight, and Randy believes that Randall is doing a fantastic job, and that's all that matters.
All
See you guys later, man.
Thank you, AJ. Great to hear you guys checking in. And honestly, it didn't sound that loud in the background, but maybe they actually had a proper mic. Like I can't say I have a proper mic tonight. I'm sorry for any ambient noise as I talk. I am in a hotel room 2,000 miles away from the tank. Back to what we were talking about goal by goal. So I guess let's talk that third goal by Hurdle.
The third goal by Hurdle. I mean, first off, it was an insane pass by Joe. I mean, Joe is almost behind the net and makes just an incredible pass
to Joe.
And it was kind of funny because we all wondered about how bad the hand was going to be because of that frickin' Bouwmeester slash to his knuckles. Didn't seem to have too many ill effects from it. I mean, he could have been just playing numbed, though, so don't really know exactly how he's doing. But it was good to see him making some really high-level passes. And you know what? Hurdle had enough on the shot to make it trickle through. Now, I mean, Elliott could have had it, and I mean, maybe if he would have squeezed a little bit harder, he could have stopped it from trickling in, but still, I mean, you're grasping for straws if you think that every goaltender is going to make that. I mean, I think the one thing that you might be able to criticize him for was not getting into the butterfly sooner, because when he did drop down, he left his 5-hole exposed, and then Hurdle just took advantage of it. So that goal went 5-hole, and it was a quick shot. It was a heavy shot. If he goes to the butterfly a little bit quicker, maybe Hurdle goes upstairs. So It's tough. It's tough, but you could make the argument that was the soft goal that he gave up. But still, I mean, the Sharks were just on lockdown, and they were playing that bend but don't break defense. The game was over at 2-0 anyways.
Yeah, I mean, really, if you look at all three goals, they're all somewhere between hard to extremely hard. Like, you know what? If you guys want to put in Jake Allen, go ahead. I don't really care. I think the Sharks can beat either one back there, but it's not the goaltender's fault.
No, it's not.
I mean, just to be, if we're being perfectly honest, like similarly in the Nashville series, it wasn't about the goaltender. Same thing with the King series. All three series so far have been about the fact that the Sharks have overwhelmed, skaters on skaters. They have overwhelmed the other team. They've played better than the other team's defense. They've made things happen, and that's really what it comes down to. It's not, I mean, there's adjustments the Blues can make, but in goal is not really where it's at.
Yeah, the Blues have no answer for the top line of the Sharks.
Or the fourth line.
The
fourth line has been pretty dominant as well. I mean, they're giving Tarasenko and Schwartz or Stastny fits. I mean, they have it's gotten to the point, which this was the other thing I was going to bring up. It's gotten to the point where now the Blues are not making routine passes. They're not making routine chips. They're double clutching when it should be a pretty quick out pass. I mean, the Sharks are playing or have gotten them into some kind of state where they feel like the minute they make a mistake, the Sharks are going to pounce all over it.
And that's a familiar state, right? I mean, we've been on the other side of that how many times? Over and over and over again.
And it's a crazy juxtaposition that the Sharks have kind of now become the aggressors, which, I mean, we've been waiting a long time to see this.
Yeah, and I mean, I've talked to Blues fans this round. I've talked to Nashville fans, and honestly, I mean, we're all kindred spirits in a lot of ways, like, because they've all suffered a long time as fans of their teams, and they've all seen it go the wrong way. And this just seems to be the year where the Sharks are managed to be the ones that are coming out on top of that equation, which is really a first for us. I mean, how many years have we seen it where the Sharks have seemingly been in control every round? Have we ever seen that? Maybe, I don't know. I mean, this is 2004, and they eventually lost that series, and even then, they didn't really have control of that series.
No, and they were never up. I mean, this is the first time they've ever been up in a Western Conference Finals. I mean, to me, this is one of the most complete Sharks teams that we have seen ever, which is a good segue for our next little segment that we kind of wanted to talk about. The GM of the Year candidates came out today, and Doug Wilson was not named amongst them. And I think that a lot of people in the Sharks community who were very critical of him a year before, like myself and like many a panel that many
up here.
Yeah, everybody up here who was very critical, to have a complete 180-degree shift in philosophy, in signing players. I mean, it's pretty amazing the shift, the radical shift that DW went through this last offseason. So it was a little perturbed. I was a little perturbed that he wasn't nominated. I want to throw it to you guys. What did you guys feel on this particular snub, if you want to call it that?
So first, I would say it's probably partially based on regular season results. Because if you're going purely off points in the regular season, then he's not a nominee. If you're going off of, if you're watching every team and how the personnel played in to their change year over year, I think he's definitely a nominee. If you count any of the playoffs at all, he is, to me, he's easily the winner, in my opinion. I mean, that's okay, so the best way of putting it is everything he touched in the last 12 months has, at a minimum, been good. Like, here's the best way of putting it. Name his worst move of the last 12 months. And you have to think really hard and maybe say, I don't know, Nick Spalling, maybe?
No,
and
I would not.
I mean, and that's
vehemently
been,
disagree.
I'm saying, like, and that at worst, that's really been a good move. Like, I'm saying, like, his worst move has been pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, we've all gone through the accolades of all the players he's brought in: Martin Jones, Paul Martin, Joel Ward, Jonas Donskoy. I mean, he's had a hell of an off season and an in season. With Dinah Zubris, that move was great. He fixed the problem. We did not have a backup goaltender. He brought in James Reimer and kind of gave Jones a chance to catch his breath before the playoffs. So really, everything's been turned to gold. But to me, I think the biggest reason why it might be that coaching move made at the beginning of the offseason, it seems like him and DeBoer are on the same page philosophically. Not only does he get the right players, but he gets the right players for what DeBoer wants to do. And I think there might have been a mismatch there with McCullough and him, but I'll go ahead and sorry, I've been going a little long here.
No, don't worry about it. I mean, something I wanted to quickly touch that Matthew York brings up in the chat. He says that maybe he's the comeback GM of the year, and I definitely agree with that. I mean, I think that's really him and Rutherford out of Pittsburgh, who had a abysmal offseason the year before, are the two that I think of immediately. I know that Ian, you had something quickly you wanted to add to it, and let's go to you and kind of hear what you had to say.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, this award's kind of a joke because if you look at the guys who are nominated, they're all on like 100-point teams, which I get. Okay, fine, they were awesome. If I remember correctly, it's the Capitals GM, the Dallas Stars GM, and Rutherford and Pittsburgh. Now, I think that is that how it went? Washington, yeah, okay. So, I mean, look I guess winning the President's Trophy gets you nominated. I don't know. Like, to me, this award makes no sense at all because the measure of a good GM isn't in a one-year snapshot, and it isn't just, hey, look at how all these pieces finally came together. I think there's that aspect to it, but if you want to look at, like, I don't know, I think if you're looking at like true like GM of the year, I think you'd want to look at consistently trying to look at teams that are. The Capitals haven't been bad. The Capitals have been a playoff team forever. The Penguins have been a playoff team forever. Dallas, Jim Nill took over. I mean, I guess you can make an argument there, but I don't know. I don't like this. I don't like this award because I think it's hard to measure other than if you're going to say, oh well, this team got a buttload of points, so that's yay GM, even though maybe they didn't have to make any moves.
Ian, you ignorant slut. It's called GM of the year. Year equals 12 months. Therefore, it's who's had the best last 12 months. And I would say, you could make an argument for the Dallas GM. I think it's Doug Wilson. Like I said, like if you look at all his moves in the last 12 months.
Oh no, I'm not disagreeing.
Somewhere between.
I'm not disagreeing.
Amazing. So,
but I think if you look at Jim Nill, I mean, Jim Nill has $10.5 million wrapped up in crappy goaltending.
And not even crappy, and complete garbage goaltending.
Complete garbage goaltending. Yeah, in the regular season, they put up a ton of points.
But, all right. Let's before we go ahead, Ian.
So I think that. So I think when you look at that, that's why I think it's just because it's one of these things that doesn't really look at the nook and it doesn't look at the gears that actually make the machine go. It just looks at the final result, the points. And I mean, like I said about Dallas, you have that. I can understand Rutherford in Pittsburgh because he's made just a ton of deals, and look at that team right now. That team is ridiculous, and the way that team turned around, just some of the trades, like just silly trades that no one thought anything of at the time. Like when they picked up Trevor Daley, totally an under the radar trade, and that's
Hagelin.
Hagelin. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of these little pieces that they've added that have made this team really good. So I get that. I think Doug Wilson should have gotten a look because, like you said, Donskoy, Martin, Ward, Jones. I mean, Jones alone is just turning out to
Yeah.
be just a ridiculous steal right now. I know if anyone's crying over that first-round pick, I don't know what to tell you.
If you're familiar with the first round pick at this point, you're just dumb.
So
At worst, it's 26 through 30, and it was for a goaltender that at least for 1 year has been a number one guy clearing away.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's quickly go over the offseason moves. I mean, he hires Peter DeBoer. I think a lot of people in the fan base kind of had held breaths at this hiring. You know, one because we saw the way that he worked in New Jersey. Some people thought, okay, well, is he going to be hard on the kids or not going to play the kids correctly or going to have issues with developing players because this team was supposed to be a tomorrow team. So he gets that move done very early. And has Peter look at the personnel, completely wiping the slate clean as far as what players have done in the past, what players are going to do, what their potential is. No, it's just when you come into camp, we're going to see how well you've done. We're going to see what you have to offer as far as the leadership perspective goes, and we'll go from a captain from there. So,
if I recall, the unilateral reaction of Pucknology was kind of,
At least it wasn't Adam Oates,
yeah.
which was the big thing, right? At least
Yeah,
it wasn't Adam.
It wasn't a negative reaction. It was kind of a, I don't know about this move. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it's a guy who can hold us over for a couple of years until we get a better coach.
Yeah, I think both me and Ian, I think I know where Ian's going on this one. We were talking about his junior record, and that he was very consistent in junior as far as getting the Kitchener Rangers places, as far as his developmental record. I think we both looked at that and said, okay, maybe that's a good thing for this team. You know, he's a coach that brings a lot of structure. It's similar in style to Todd McClellan, but it's different as well. I think Todd McClellan's was a very much of the Detroit model where it's just hold the puck, finesse the puck. Whereas this style,
Todd McClellan had a doghouse too. Like he had a very distinct doghouse. You get in there, you were never out.
Yeah, I agreed. But you know, kind of going a little bit more. I'm thinking a little more about the style of play. Mm-hmm. So this team is a little faster. This team moves the puck through the neutral zone a lot quicker than they did in the Todd McClellan era. This team goes north-south, doesn't rely on those cross-ice feeds as much. I mean, we do see Jumbo and Couture make cross-ice feeds, but that's when they know they can get an isolation play, a one-on-one kind of play. So it's just a very much more up-tempo and more of a rhythmic kind of game. The other big key about DeBoer, though, is the rolling the lines philosophy. I mean, he has always been one that wants to roll the lines, and Todd McClellan was notorious for running his top players into the ground.
Yeah, and he was also notorious for, as soon as things started getting a little bit bad, he would just start mixing the combinations.
The line blender.
Really fast. Like he was like that. Like they get a 1/2 game, and he was already mixing combinations. DeBoer seems a little more of the state, and it depends, I guess, on the underlying game as well. Because you can look at the scoreboard and say, oh, they're playing badly because they're down 2-0, and someone could look at all the numbers like, well, no, maybe not. And DeBoer seems a little more in tune with how they're actually playing as opposed to what the score is, and say, if they're playing good, let it roll. Keep going. I mean, that's what it is. Like, if you're making a good bet, let it roll. And it seems like he's a little better at that and not reacting to the score too much. Like, score is what matters in the end, but really the play is, how good you're playing in the long run usually dictates the outcome. And it seems like DeBoer's a lot better at focusing on how they're playing as opposed to the results of how they're playing.
Yeah, I think then we look a little bit further along in the offseason. We go to the draft, and they keep their first-round pick. They make their selection, Timo Meier, who you could have said, okay, there were a couple other players that you could have taken in that spot, but Yeah, a good player. He was going to be a player that was going to be solid, that might be able to step up in a year. He had the off chance of maybe making it out of camp that year, but that's on a soft lineup. Really, I mean, he's a big-bodied forward, a good overall pick. So, the I guess the aura around the team was that there was going to be a Patrick Marleau trade, or there was going to be some kind of off-season move where one of the veterans was going to try and get moved. That doesn't happen. Again, then we go into the next day, and the trade for Martin Jones happens. Martin Jones goes to Boston for Milan Lucic and some players mixing up. I think a Kings prospect went the other way, and some picks went. And then immediately after that happened, you see Doug Wilson head over to Boston's table and just start working the phones to try and get Jones out of Boston. And what's he do? He ends up ponying up a first-round pick and college prospect Sean Corrale, who's a good prospect. I would say
though.
Yeah, I'd say a B level.
Not a huge prospect, yeah.
No, not a huge prospect, a B level prospect. But
the thing is with that is like it's he's Sean Corrale's another guy who's like maybe a bottom 6 guy, and if you go through our list of prospects, you'd probably say that for a lot of them.
Yeah. So definitely not a lot lost there. The other interesting thing though that he did was he shipped Niemi off before that trade happened. He made sure that there were no ties to Niemi, that there wasn't going to be anything in the way from him getting his number 1 goaltender and him signing that goaltender, whoever he got, to a deal. And he ends up getting Jones, and then he ends up signing him, which I think caught a lot of people a little off guard, because, man, why are you giving this money to an unproven goaltender? Well, fast forward a little bit, that's looking like a really good bargain for a goaltender.
Well, and in the reaction at the time was kind of like, I mean, from a lot of us is like, okay, dude, this better work. Like, it was a pretty big gamble. Like, if you're just looking at it from the perspective of every trade ever made, it's like, unproven guy, and I think that was the general sentiment, like, this could work, but it better work. Like, it was definitely like, you're kind of near the end of your rope, so it's got to work out. And it did, though. And early in the season, we could see he was playing like a number 1 goaltender. We're like, can he maintain? And he had a little dip around December. I mean, part of this the team around him too, but especially now in the playoffs, he is justifying Doug Wilson's decision, because at this point, like, it's a late first-round pick at best.
Yep.
And it could be a really, really late first-round pick with how things are looking.
Yeah. But
can I jump in here on something here quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Just because I'm seeing in the chat where a lot of like Niemi, he's everything that Niemi we wanted Niemi to be, and I think too another factor with the Niemi signing was that this is when, and you're probably going to see a little bit of this year as well, where the big, the thing was now that we didn't need to spend money on goalies anymore. We could just grab any goalie and you could win the cup, because expensive goalies don't matter, because it was the Letton and Niemi final when we picked up Niemi, and I think that just Doug Wilson is bad for doing. I mean, the NHL's a copycat league to begin with, but Doug Wilson's extra bad for being a copycat. So it was kind of nice to see what he did this offseason, because he went off his own script. It wasn't like he didn't just bottom it out to try and be the Oilers or another team that had Chicago, for example, that just piled up prospects and now they're amazing.
I think let me ramp right off that, though. I think the other thing that we've got to praise DW for is not falling victim to the Cam Talbot gambit. A lot of people thought that maybe Cam Talbot was on his ghost roster for players that he wanted. It seemed like Jones was the person he wanted from the start.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't even sound like he was really that interested in Cam Talbot. So when he knew that he was in Boston, he's like, okay, I'm making the phone call to Boston. And if I'm Dean Lombardi, I'd be fucking furious because you trade him out of the Western Conference because you know the kid's going to be good, and once it ends up happening, he goes to your arch rival.
Yeah, and when I've always criticized the Sharks about trying to be the Kings too badly, this is one case where they did the exact right thing. Like, in retrospect, it wasn't as big of a gamble as we thought. Okay, a first round pick, it's a good price to pay, but if that blew up in our face,
well,
we
it was
move
because
on.
it wasn't
We move on.
lottery protected.
It's not the end of the world. We move on. It's
Well,
not going to be the worst.
So the big thing, though, that we were all really concerned about was that it was not lottery protected. There was no insurance on that pick. So if the Sharks bottomed out and it was going to be a lottery pick, especially with the new lottery rules, that if that was the first overall pick and that was Austin Matthews, would that have been
even?
That have been the biggest bust in Sharks history? But thank goodness, that line of history was not, did not occur. So,
hey,
but-
look, and
and
there's
also-
a chance that when Boston picked, in the top 3, they'd get a top prospect, and then they'd send him to the Western Conference in a couple of years when they decided he wasn't brewing enough. So maybe we would get him back then.
Well, and also, I think Doug Wilson saw what a lot of us saw last year. Like, as bad as last year's team was, I think we all knew that team was way better than they were. Like, that team was way too talented to be as bad as they were last year. So I think Doug Wilson knew, like, yeah, this is not going to be a team that's, it might be borderline playoffs and maybe miss the playoffs, but this is not going to be a bottom feeder. And I think, in that sense, I think he calculated the bet pretty well. Like, I think he knew, like, that at worst, or at best, the Sharks may be picking late top 10. There's almost no way they're going to be picking early top 10 unless they just completely shit the bed. And not impossible, but this team is way too talented to have done what they did last year. Last year was atrocious.
right,
No two ways around it.
So then we get into the free agent portion of DW's offseason, and he goes and he signs Joel Ward, which we all liked. I mean, I think that was pretty much a universally praised signing by everyone.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody.
I think we all liked it as a nice depth addition. No one's really excited about it, but I think it was good. Like,
I was jacked.
No, I was jacked as well.
I was kind of more on the nice depth play. That was my reaction.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't gonna get it. I'm a Sharks fan. I don't get overly hopeful.
The other free agent was an international free agent, which was we'll talk about him probably at the end. But Donskoy was a major pickup, and especially for the price.
You forgot Paul Martin, which
No,
in my opinion
but
bigger.
that's where we're going next. So I'm going the two veterans, and then we're going to Donskoy. So Paul Martin was his next pickup, and was a very interesting pickup because Peter DeBoer saw him at the World Championship and said, that guy is going to be good for Brent Burns. He liked him. He thought that he was going to be a calming influence on Brent Burns, and they go and they overpay for Paul Martin. It's free agency, so you're going to pay a little bit more of a premium for a defenseman, especially a defenseman who's got the pedigree that Paul Martin does. But it wasn't bad. It's not bad right now. It probably won't be bad for the next two years. Maybe in the last year of that contract, you might say it might be a little bad.
Might be a little bad in the last 2 years, but really, the fact that he's helped turn Brent Burns into a superstar, I think that offsets anything on the back end of the contract. And like you said, like I at the time I was like, well, top 4 defensemen might pair well with Burns. Okay. Sounds interesting. We'll see how this works in practice. But in practice, he has been the reason why Brent Burns is now arguably, you could argue, he is better than Boyle. As like, it sounds heresy to say, he might have had the greatest season in Sharks history for a defenseman. And in the playoffs, he's continuing that. Like, that's something to say. Like, that a lot of that is owed to that signing.
Agreed. I think it quieted Brent Burns' game down. It really taught him that he didn't have to commit for when he did make a mistake, because Paul Martin has that great ability of when he makes a mistake, he's able to quiet his game down in the same sequence of events and doesn't compound the mistake. The mistake happens, a turnover happens, big deal, but then he gets back up, he gets into proper alignment, into proper defensive positioning, and he does not exacerbate the problem. That was Brent Burns' biggest MO, was that he would make a mistake and then he would compound the mistake to try and make up for it. And since Paul Martin has happened, sure, Brent Burns has had a few bad games. Game 1 was a bad giveaway, but
he just looked rattled, just looked rattled to be there, I think.
Yeah. And also, well, not just help settle him down, but also he's been good at covering for him. 'Cause, how many 2-on-1s has Martin covered this season where maybe Burns gambled a little too much, but Martin was able to bail him out because he understands how to play with a bit of a wild man and be the yin to Burns' yang, and that's really kind of what it's been like. He's been the perfect, just in every aspect of the game, been the perfect complement to Brent Burns. He's covered him, he's helped him kind of tune his game to the right place where we've had Burns giveth, Burns taketh away. But this year we've had a lot more Burns giveth.
A lot more Burns giveth.
But I think the other thing, though, that we kind of didn't expect, but Paul Martin is a good puck mover in himself. I mean, I think a little bit of Brent Burns has rubbed off on Paul Martin, where he isn't as afraid to make an offensive play. He does make a very good first pass. He's not an anchor to Brent Burns. He is mobile enough and able to move the puck to complement Brent Burns. That was the big deal that people were going to have with Brent Burns, was that you needed somebody quick enough, but you needed somebody with enough skill to play with Brent Burns. It's like Sidney Crosby, where he needs a certain kind of player to play with him because he's got just a way about playing. He wants to be the one that carries in. He wants to be the one that says, okay, kid, you just put your stick right there, and I'm going to shot pass it, and you're going to get a goal. So it's Brent Burns. He needs a certain type of player to play with him, and Paul Martin was that fit.
Given there's 5 skaters in the ice at any given time, the best players, it varies, but most of them need a good complement, at least 1 or 2 good complements. And that's what Martin's given us the blueprint now. Maybe in a couple years, Martin's gone. But now we kind of have a good idea of, what's the type of player Brent Burns needs to really be Brent Burns and be a superstar. That's what he's been for the last 3 or 4 months now. Yeah. He's been a superstar. He's been, arguably one of the best 5 players in the NHL over that stretch. And we need more of that. That's what we need right there.
Yeah, no, definitely. And then last but not least, probably the greatest international signing in Sharks history, maybe? At least rookie signing. Jonas Donskoi, who has been everything as advertised, a great playmaker, a great hard-working forward who does not give up on a play, has great defensive acumen, and really has elevated Couture's game, which you didn't. I mean, you thought Couture was the motor of a line, but really, Donskoi is the motor of a line as a winger, and that's very hard to find.
Yeah, Donskoi's just so crafty. He's the kind of guy you don't have to see his number. You know it's him because of just the way he handles things. He's so crafty. Yeah, like you said, he takes Couture to another level. He elevates everyone who's around him. Even good players. He's just so special. You can see it with him.
Yeah, I think the other thing that you touched on was craftiness. I don't think that we have seen a player as crafty as him since Igor. I mean, it's been that long since we've seen a crafty player like that.
I mean, the only player I've seen in Sharks uniform in the last couple years handle the puck like that was Daniel Winnick for a few games, where he was moving really good. But I mean, yeah, that trade didn't work out so well. But I remember his first couple games, he was really moving. He was doing a lot of great things with the puck. But yeah, like it was just like it's one of those guys like you just can see the way they move. It's almost like they're hunched over the puck, but they're constantly protecting it. They're moving it. They're shifting it around, fooling guys. It's incredible watching. Just let Ian chime in here because I know he's got thoughts on Donskoy.
The thing with Donskoy to me is, I mean, everything you guys said, but the thing that I like the most about Donskoy is the guy's just got an engine that doesn't stop. And that kind of work ethic is infectious.
No, it really is. It's almost like, you know how Raffi Torres, when he'd get his body into it and you just see the Sharks just become a different team?
Yeah.
It's like that.
You can't take a shift off when you're skating with a guy like Donskoy. That's what I really like about him. I mean, yes, he has hands, and yes, he's got some hockey smarts, and he's got a good shot. But the way he just, it doesn't matter if the Sharks could be getting blown out, and Donskoy is still there working his butt off, and what can they?
We
He's great.
are after dark, Ian. You can say other words.
I know. I'm trying to be better. Because now I swear all the time, and Wendell's getting mad at me.
She's like, after dark guys having a bad influence on you, damn it, Ian.
Shameless plug for our sister podcast, Teal Tinted Glasses. If you guys haven't checked them out, I don't believe they have a cast out this week.
We
but
didn't
they will
do one this week.
But they will be out next week. Great show hosted by Wendell McGowan and Ian Reed. So please check that out if you. And Rocket Backhander, who's in the chat right now. So
and at a lot of the games. And while we're at plugging stuff, if you're new here, subscribe. We appreciate it. We are here every game.
Yes,
absolutely.
After every game, and we do round by round analysis, even when the Sharks aren't here, and we'll be super depressed if they're not. But
and also as of tonight, we are guaranteed at least 100 post games this season because we at minimum will hit Game 6, and that will be the 100th Pucknology After Dark post game this season.
Yes.
That's a pretty big milestone for us this year.
That's a very big milestone.
Huge.
So anyhow, I mean, just kind of overall, I think that was a very, very good off season. Didn't have any misses, all hits. I mean, he had a couple triples. He had a home run. I mean, the worst you could say would be a double in Joe Ward. I mean, really, it was a picture perfect offseason.
Joe Ward, arguably, without him, we don't win that Predators series because he had some really big goals against Pecorine. Like, I would say everything. Yeah, at least a double, triple, and for expectations, like there's a lot of home runs there. So
Shane brings up a really good point. He says that the pairing of Burns and Martin is kind of like Al McInnes and Pronger. Now that's somebody we haven't heard in a long time. But you know what? The clear advantage for Burns though is that he's not a douchebag.
Yeah, no, Burns, like if you ever met him, like he is like the most earnest, nice guy. Like he's not a bad guy, and that's one of the things like why I said like, and I've heard this from other fans too. Is like it's hard to hate this Sharks team. Like I know there's some hate for Couture. Let's not get into that. But overall, most of these guys, Marlowe, Thornton, Pavelski, Hurdle, like they're you can hate them because they're good, but there's not a lot of reason to hate them because
they're douchebags. They're not like Steve Ott or Backus or.
Well, Joe Pavelski is a weasel after all.
Or Ryan Kessler, or if we go over to the East, Sidney Crosby or Callahan, they're just likable, nice guys.
Like the worst rep is on Couture, and even that rep isn't even that bad. Like this is a very likable team. Like I mean, shout out to a lot of the guys from Predscast and all that. I listened to their thing. We had a link from ontheforecheck.com on here on one of our shows. And he's telling me on Twitter like he's rooting for the Sharks, even though they beat the Predators, because he likes the Sharks. Like they're a good team. I think he understands the struggle too. Like that's Preds history, Sharks history. There's a lot of parallels. So yeah, this is a hard team to hate. Like
Right.
I mean, obviously as a fan, we're a little biased, but it's not an easy team to hate.
No, no. I think a lot of people have said that they want to see Joe Thornton and Patrick Marleau succeed, and really cement Hall of Fame careers for the both of them. At the end of the day, I think Marleau is a Hall of Famer. If he make,
I don't know.
I think so. I think so.
Because borderline, but I mean, at the minimum, he's borderline.
He's
And
borderline.
yeah,
I think if he raises a certain silver trophy, I think that it definitely tilts in his favor. Whereas I think Thornton's first ballot, regardless.
Thornton, yeah, I've said this many times on the show, but Thornton does not need a cup to validate his career. It would only add to it.
Yeah. So let's quickly, I guess, let's run down
Wait.
the. Oh,
I want to talk.
Alrighty.
I just want to close it off on the Doug Wilson thing. I think the thing with Doug Wilson is when you look at the deals, I mean, obviously everything he's done is paying dividends now. What is going to be the issue is what happens going forward. As I know, I got to point it out because AJ's not here to do it. We paid a huge price for Pollock and Spalling, and there is time to reclaim those picks. But if you don't reclaim those picks, that's a lot. And if I'm not trying to look too far ahead, but if the Sharks win the Cup, I don't care what happens. This team can go into a tsunami over the next few years. I don't care because he went all in and it was all worth it. Absolutely. Yeah. But I think that's the thing that we're going to have to look forward to is how is this team going to look going forward, because it's going to be very interesting next year, especially when you have to decide, are you going to give Brent Burns $8 million?
You're going to back up a truck. You're literally going to back up a dump truck of money.
Yeah.
Right.
Some hard decisions coming up in the off season, but if this last off season is any indication, Doug Wilson seems to have some pretty good ideas going.
Yeah. Yeah, because I just felt like going into this season, like I feel like, the window wasn't really open, but he put a pry bar into the window and really wedged it open for us. I'm just curious to see how long he can kind of wedge that open.
And I mean, that's kind of the provincial GM challenge. So I had one also. I also had a final thought on the Doug Wilson thing.
All right, wrap it up with the bow, Chris.
It's been brought up several times. Like, well, after last off season, anything's good, right? Well, okay. Honestly, Doug Wilson could have had a average or above average off season last year, and we'd still be saying this off season is phenomenal. It's not just by comparison. This off season was arguably the best offseason in Sharks history. Like, it's really, if you look season over season, it's really hard to look at this 12-month span and say he's had a better 12-month span anywhere else. Maybe when he acquired Thornton, if you're doing the whole 12-month span, not including, because that's not off-season, but still. The point is, even if you take away the comparison, he had a phenomenal 12 months, and that's why I say he should be GM of the year. But obviously he won't be.
So yeah, I think we wrapped up the bow on this one quite nice. I think we're all really impressed with the offseason, and he's built up the team. The prospect pool hasn't been this big in a very long time.
It still needs work. Don't get me wrong.
No, but it hasn't. But it has. We haven't had this amount of talent in a long time. So I think that side of the equation is also better. Quickly, I just really want to hammer this home for everybody. Let's talk about playoff point leaders. Logan Couture is the leading point getter in the entire NHL, more than Sidney Crosby, more than Phil Kessel, more than Nikita Kucherov. Logan Couture leads the NHL with 20 points. That's 7 goals, 13 assists. Nipping at his heels is Brent Burns in second place with 18 points. Nipping at his heels is Joe Pavelski with 17 points. The top 5 are comprised of 3 Sharks, a Phil Kessel, and a player that's not even playing in the games anymore, in Jamie Benn. So the Sharks have set up really well with their scoring from the defense and from the offense. Their superstars are definitely coming out to play. Joe Thornton, I mean, he's having a very good playoff with 13 points in 15 games. Heck, we were even talking about Patrick Marleau. Patrick Marleau is 27th on the list, but 10 points in 15 games. So, I mean, these are all very, very good things for the Sharks. And now, tonight and yesterday, or sorry, the previous game, you're seeing the bottom six start to contribute on the scoreboard as well. So it's good times in Sharkland.
Definitely, most definitely, and yeah, like you said, this team is top heavy. It's also bottom heavy though. That's really, I mean, that's the difference. Like they've been top heavy in some playoff years where, like, I mean, Thorn's led them in points in playoff runs, and been a point per game player. And same with Marleau, he's been around a point per game player in a lot of his playoff runs. But they not only have the top guys, but they have the bottom guys. They have Donskoy. I mean, okay, Donskoy's played a lot on second line, but we're talking the secondary players.
Well, I mean, the luxury,
guys-
the luxury to play a Joel Ward on the third line, I think, is a good thing. The emergence of Chris Tierney as a really good shutdown third line center. Tommy Wingles, I mean, I think he kind of took it personally that he was healthy scratch, and come back with a vengeance.
Spalling's been an amazing player, especially on the penalty kill. He's been huge. Zubris got 2 points last game. He's been a key in, like, I think he's been a big part of keeping this team loose, like keeping them not like, don't tense up, don't get into the, oh shit, we're the same old Sharks. Don't get into that mentality. Just play loose, and they've played loose.
I think, and that's what I like too, because a lot of time before, I thought, I thought that the Sharks would try and grab like key players, like the rings in the room that they always tried to get, and they were always like these guys that were expected to be in like big spots, like your Bill Guerin and what have you. And then when did Bill Guerin win a cup? I don't know. I don't even care. Here's the point: is that instead of looking for guys to like punch in and try to force into the top lines to be the rings in the rooms guys, he went and he picked up guys like Zubris and and Spall, like these guys. And I don't think Spalling's won anything, but he picked up veteran players who fit actual needs on the team, instead of trying to like force, try to overload the top six.
Well, I think the other thing too that's also kind of glossed over is the fact that Peter DeBoer had a lot of relationships with the players that Wilson went out and acquired. I mean, he had a relationship with Spalling from junior, knew the kind of player he was, had a relationship with Dinas Zubris, knew Paul Martin, knew of Joel Ward, he played a lot against him. So it was also really good to see that the GM and the head coach were in sync with player personnel. Polak, of course, I mean, we can't really forget that. And I think the last thing I think I want to touch on this is Martin Jones and just how damn good he has been. If we run down the save percentage leaders, leading the current class of playoff teams, Ben Bishop. Number one with a .939 save percentage.
Stupid. Very
stupid.
Yeah,
Matt Murray, the rookie sensation, with a .928. But guess who's nipping at his heels with a .927? Our own Martin Jones, doing a damn good job. Brian Elliott has a .925, so he's also played really well. Shutouts. Martin Jones leads the playoff contenders, or playoff remainers, whatever you want to call them, with 3 shutouts. He's got the most amount of wins in the NHL with 10, and he's got the 3rd lowest goals against average. And leading the goals against average is Braden Holtby, and he's not even playing anymore. But Ben Bishop is 2nd with a 1.85, and Martin Jones with a 1.89. Rocket Backhander brings up a great point. He calms everybody down. I mean, he makes everybody say, you know what, boys, don't worry about it back here. I've got it covered. I'm going to make the saves I need to make. Go, Brent Burns, go and fly like the wind, because I can cover for you if all else fails. And I think having that insurance, I think, is really good for this team, because they can play however they want to play in front of him, and they know that they've got a rock back there.
Indeed. So I guess it's about time to wrap up, don't you think?
I believe so. We have almost hit that hour. Actually, we're past an hour.
Yeah, we're past an hour. We spent too much time gushing over the orange guy, but
which is hard to believe, but anyhow, it's going to be interesting going
This
forward.
is why we haven't seen Gen X tonight, by the way.
he's like sticking pins in his little orange bobblehead.
He's shoving hot pokers through his eyeballs right now.
No, he's like shoving crappy Northwest beer.
Shots fired on Gen X's beer
As
selection.
always.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I think we should do final thoughts and wrap up. I'll let you guys go first because I have a little something I need to get off my chest.
All right.
Ian, go ahead and lead us off.
Yeah, I mean, my final thoughts are obviously the Sharks are in a good place. They look fantastic. I can't look too far ahead, but obviously I like the way things are going. And I like I said, I really think that it doesn't, at this point, I feel almost like the Sharks are kind of playing with house money. I certainly didn't expect them to get this far and look this well, especially against a team like the Blues. And again, there's still lots of series left to play here. But I think it's house money, and I think that even should the Sharks advance and go no further, I still think that it doesn't. I don't think you can bitch overpayment anymore. I really think that what the Sharks have been able to do this year, everything's been worth the price of admission.
Yeah, I'll go next so we can leave the floor for Chris. Look, this team, I don't want to say looks the best in the playoffs, but that game against the Predators, that Game 7, where they just came out and they literally laughed Nashville out of the building, showed me that this team is ready for something special and ready to win that big special silver cuppy thing. If they go against, if they win out and they continue to play the way that they're playing against the Blues right now, they're going to have a really good shot to advance. They cannot let their foot off the gas. I don't think that this team will, but they need to continually play with the kind of energy and the kind of tenacity that we've seen throughout the playoffs. So they're up 2-1 right now. They could easily be up 3-0, but let's not look too far past St. Louis because they're a good team and they're going to come back with even more of a vengeance in Game 4. So Sharks fans got to remember there's another team playing over there too.
All right, thank you, Eric. So I'm going to start with there's a old saying we have around these parts. Same old Sharks. I'm declaring a moratorium on this for the next 12 months, at least another year, because there is no same old Sharks now. The Sharks have never done this before. We are blazing a new trail. The Sharks have won 2 games in the Western Conference Finals, but they have never led in the Western Conference Finals. If they lose the next 2 and it's suddenly 3-2 Blues, no, it's not same old Sharks, because the Sharks have never even really been in that spot before. So no, let's put a moratorium on same old Sharks, and let's appreciate this team for what it is. This team has done some really impressive things, and I like to think they have a lot more left in them. And we have a tendency as Sharks fans, because we've been burned so many times. So many times. I've been there for all of it. I know too. But the minute they lose a game, we're like, oh gosh, here we go again. Oh no, it's about to just go sideways. We have that reaction. Just ask, like, slow down. If the Blues win the next game, we're not back to the same old Sharks. The 2-2 series, the Western Conference Finals, that's a perfectly fine place for the Sharks to be. It's not going to be easy. No, very few teams that win the Stanley Cup don't face a challenge. This team has faced a lot of adversity because That's the one thing that's bugged me. I've heard like, oh, this team has not faced adversity this year. No, this team has faced adversity this year. They lost Logan Couture. They've had their share of adversity all year long. So it's happened. So final thoughts from me. Let's appreciate what we're watching here. Let's enjoy this because honestly, if they raise that big silver trophy, we have spent 25 years earning this. We've suffered a lot. Oh damn it! What is going on here?
Oh, Chris looks like Will Ferrell on SNL when he does the movie critic skit. No, it's just
by the way, this is not my normal home setup. This is me in a hotel out in the Midwest, 2,000 miles away in, as I put it before, the middle of nowhere, Illinois. But I'm just saying, okay, enjoy this. Like, maybe they don't raise the silver trophy. We don't know, but enjoy this because the Sharks are about to go as far as they've ever gone in the playoffs, and every heartbreak is what will make that day we get that silver trophy. Every heartbreak is what's going to make it that much sweeter. So I'm just saying, like, remember to keep an even keel. Don't get too excited over a win. Don't get too down over a loss. There's a lot of ebbs and flows. Enjoy this because this might be what we've been waiting for. Don't spend too much time getting really high-strung over it. Try to enjoy it. And that's my final thoughts. Back to you, Landy.
I don't know. It's like a Dr. Evil / Mr. Rogers vibe over there. He's spouting off knowledge, but he's also got that weird ass chair.
$100 million.
We had a Twitter question, quick, just if you want to get in before you go. Final thoughts. If you guys want to go quick, your MVP thus far.
That's hard because it's been a lot of different guys, honestly. Couture say obvious because the points, but I think really it's been Pavelski. He's top goal scorer. He's made a lot of big plays when he needed it.
For me, it's the Wookiee. I mean, he has affected so much play on good and bad. He's the X factor that we've never had. He's the Carlson, the Doughty, the whatever. Just that player that can change a game.
Wild card.
Yeah, it can change the game at his whim, and nobody has had an answer for him. Nobody still has an answer for him. You know what? I mean, he's the motor that runs this team, and God, just stay healthy, Bernsey. That's all I ask.
I'm gonna actually go Couture. I think Couture's been quietly one of the more consistent guys. It's like that second line has always just seemed to be, it's always there. It might not be putting up the points, but it's always pushing play. So I really like obviously the points help, but Couture's really had, in my opinion, quietly, except for now that has this point lead. Until that happened, he was really quietly having probably the best playoffs of his career. I mean, not that it's super long, but I'd argue easily the best of his career.
Yeah, definitely.
Good answer.
Well, for everybody here at Pucknology After Dark, thank you for tuning in. If you have not already subscribed, please use the red button that's either below my name tag or on the other side below some of the laundry or something. Also, check us out on Pucknology.net. We have some great writers, some new contributors. Drew Weber, who was formerly at the Hockey Writers, now working exclusively for us. Well, I don't know if exclusively, but also putting out some great material. You have Thomas Owen, of course. You have Aiden Carlson. You have Mr. Ian Reed. Puck Guy himself also contributes.
Don't say working, because then people are going to look for a paycheck, and I don't have one for them.
No, it's a labor of love, and it's just been growing so much steam, and it's only going to get bigger, and it's great. So please check out Pucknology.net, and also our sister podcast, Teal Tinted Glasses. For everybody here, have a good night, and we will see you next game.